Well, if it isn't you joining me yet again, or maybe for the first time, for an episode of the Alchemical Life podcast, really glad to have you here. I am a strength coach. I train predominantly endurance athletes. I am an endurance runner myself, and my goal is to help people get stronger, faster, forever. And today we're going to be talking about strength for runners content and really delve into this thing that I like to call stimulus management. Let me explain myself. Okay. So strength for runners content is very popular on social media, probably also on YouTube. I don't pay as much attention to it. I don't go on TikTok, so it's probably there too, but I don't go on it. But on Instagram, I see it all the time, and I've been posting about it. You will continue to see me post about it. And if you don't want to follow me on Instagram or go see it, then you'll get it summarized here. So you are welcome. But essentially, Strength for Runners content, it's necessary because how else are we going to get the attention of a runner? I want to be able to pull in and gravitate right to runners, to endurance athletes, because I want them to be able to see that this is the content that is for them. Now, I see a lot of other great coaches, physios, PTs posting incredible strength for runners information out there, but it is often clouded by a lot of content that looks a lot like super underloaded exercises, a lot of banded clamshells, a lot of Bosu ball stuff, a lot of exercises where you're doing multiple exercises in one exercise, circuit training, very glamorized, super sport specific, and frankly, I think poor information. That's what it's being clouded by. And so I want to talk a little bit about strength for runners content and what it should really look like. And also, how does this even matter for you guys today? Well, the point of strength for runners content is that if you can't have a coach in your life to help you with your training, then you need to be equipped with the best possible information so that you can train yourself well and you can have success in all of your fitness endeavors. And so we're going to talk about this concept called stimulus management, because stimulus management is the thing really that I think is what gives me the job that I have, and also is what confuses most people, and also is what's going to today equip you guys with some of the tools to be able to do this by yourself if having a one-on-one online coach, a one-on-one in-person coach is not something that is just feasible for you to do. Where strength for runners content goes wrong is they focus a lot on super sport specific stuff. They also focus on a lot of underloading and creating a high degree of stimulus to feel something, to feel alive. And the exercises are usually high in number, the repetitions are high in number, and it's missing the mark because what it's not applying is actually this concept of load management. And why I'm talking today about stimulus management and not load management is because stimulus management to me encompasses everything. But what happens is when you're going in a hard, long training block, right? You are an endurance athlete, you are a runner, you are a triathlete, whatever. You are accumulating a lot of fatigue throughout your week. And so when you're going into the strength room, you want to make sure that you're utilizing your time well, and you're also not generating so much fatigue that it's overdoing it. Because strength, while it does have its benefits, is not the end all be all for runners. It's an important facet in someone's training, but it's also, I think, a little bit over glamorized, and that's a whole nother episode that I could get into, and that's coming from somebody who is a strength coach. When you go into the strength room, load management is important because you are probably across the period of a training block, especially a hard training block, are going to get weaker. Your strength might go down a little bit and your fatigue is going to go up. So how do we manage the amount of load we put on our body in a way that allows us to still go into the strength room, do productive work, and not accumulate too much fatigue? That's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm kind of going to blow over the idea of load management and go into this concept called stimulus management, because I don't want us to just think about how much weight we're putting on a bar, we're stacking a machine with, we're picking up via the dumbbells. I want us to think about stimulus management in the sense of how much stimulus are we getting in the reps, in the sets, in the exercises, in the order of exercises, in the session duration, and in our perception of that stimulus and what it's bringing to us. That's what I want us to look at. It's the entirety of the session as a whole, not just the load that we're putting on our bodies. The first thing to do to manage overall stimulus is a concept that I talk about all the time. And I'm sorry if you listen to a lot of my episodes, you're going to be like, Jesus Christ, Abigail, get this just tattooed on your body at this point. And it's keep the hard days hard and keep the easy days easy. So being able to stack a lift on a harder running day is going to help with overall stimulus management. making sure that you run first, because running is the most important thing. If we're talking to runners, endurance athletes, just in general, doing the endurance endeavor first is important. Fueling beforehand, fueling afterwards, having a few hours or so to rest, and then adding in your strength session is an ideal setup for what we're trying to look for on this kind of day. And while it is going to be tough to get through because it's a very high intensity day, that's what we want to do. We want to keep the hard days really hard. And then when you have your easy runs, an easy bike, an easy swim, or a total rest day, you can keep that day easy instead of adding on and accumulating a little bit more fatigue via an extra tacked on strength session. The next thing that I want to look at in terms of how to manage stimulus is plan to adjust on the fly. Plan to adjust on the fly, but have a constant rotation so as not to be sore all the time. What does this mean? Well, this is the value of having a coach. Raise your hand, everybody, if during your training block you've had to change your training because of outside stressors, fatigue, life events, things like that. Yes, okay. That's just changing your runs. Now you also are going to have to potentially change your strength session. And it might be the day that you change the strength session you do. It might be the actual exercises you do within that strength session that you change and shift. It might be the rep scheme. It might be the set count. But we're changing things. So plan to adjust on the fly. If you have to change your day so that your hard day gets moved to Wednesday instead of Tuesday, you're also going to move and shift the lift based off of that. If you also were planning on lifting on Thursday, then maybe instead you're going to have to change a couple of the exercises so that you can lift Wednesday and Thursday and you're not accumulating too much fatigue. Maybe you say, screw it, I'm not lifting on Thursday and I'm just going to lift on Wednesday. Plan to adjust on the fly. Maybe instead of doing a barbell front squat, fatigue has accumulated and so you go to a machine like a pendulum squat. And this is going to be one of my next points, is machines are your friends. But why I also have a constant rotation so as not to be sore all the time. Have a couple of movements that you can kind of count on. If you do have to shift the movement, have it still mimic the intent that you're trying to get out of the exercise that you decided to ditch. For example, going from a barbell front squat to a pendulum squat isn't changing too much in terms of intent. I want to be able to do strength for my lower body. I want to be able to have to brace my core. I want to get deep knee flexion. I'm training both the adductors, the quadriceps. It's a main lift. It's more of a compound movement. And so I'm going to swap those out. I'm doing this because the pendulum squat, I'm a little bit more externally stabilized. It's generating a little bit less overall fatigue. And I feel like I'm going to have a little bit of a safety net in case my form breaks down a little bit. Whereas on a barbell front squat, things can, hit the fan quick if we're not careful. If you instead decide to go, I'm going to go barbell front squat, and instead of barbell front squat, I'm going to do a super heavy RDL just because my quads feel tired. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, and there might be room for that. But if you're constantly adjusting and changing exercises week to week and you're doing it in a way where you're still trying to drive intent and stimulus out of the exercise, you're one, missing intent, and two, potentially getting a different stimulus. So then you're driving up more fatigue in a different way and you have soreness, and it's like this big mesh of I'm trying to change the plan to help me and it's only hurting me in the long run. So have an idea as to what you want to do and have kind of a rotation of potential substitute exercises that you can pull out of, so that, again, if you have a week where things have to change and the plan has to shift, you can rely on those backups and you're not going to necessarily be losing intent or driving up any kind of unnecessary fatigue or soreness. If you have to change rep scheme or sets, then general recommendation is just drop a working set, drop 2 working sets. Reps, I often don't change the reps quite as much as I'll change the exercise or the set. But if you do feel like you need to change reps, I often say go in a range, then just choose the lower end of the range for that particular day. And that's why I work with my clients often in rep ranges and never an exact rep count. Sometimes I do, but usually it's a range, because depending on the week, 8 reps might be there. Depending on the week, 6 reps might be there. 5 reps might be there. And doing 6 reps one week and 8 reps the next week, or 8 reps one week and 6 reps the next week, isn't a huge indicator of your overall success or lack thereof in the strength that you're doing. If you have a consistent decrease in the ability to output, then that's something we're going to look at. But on a week-to-week basis, if we have one week where we're feeling a little bit run down, that's not a big deal. You almost can't go too short, but you can go too long. So when you're in a hard training block, oftentimes I tell people, I'd rather you get something done, and I'd rather you keep it quick and short and to the point. You can go too long in a strength training session. You absolutely can. You can do too much, but you almost can never do too little. I want that to be not an excuse to do little all the time, but rather just a form of encouragement to people who maybe time is a factor and you just do not have time to get the entire strength training session done, or maybe fatigue is a factor. And so being able to instead extract, again, the intent that we want out of the session. Let's say in my session, I have barbell front squat, I have dumbbell RDL, I have a lying ham curl, I have an incline press, and have a pull up. All right. I might take the front squat, I might take the pull up, I might take the lying ham curl and say, those are the 3 exercises I'm going to do because they're hitting a few areas that I really want to hit. I want to be able to drive deep knee flexion and have a compound lift. I want to be able to have an upper body compound lift, and I want to train my back and my lats, and I want to work on strength around the hamstring in knee flexion. That might be all I do today. And it's not the entire workout. It's a little bit over half of the workout. It's a significant decrease than what I was normally doing. I might even take those and say, normally I do 3 or 4 sets of those things, but today I'm just going to do 2. So now I've decreased my workout by almost 70%. Well, I'm still going to do those working sets hard. I'm still going to show up with the intent that I want, and I'm still extracting really what I needed from that session that day. That session might be 20 or 30 minutes long, and it's still going to be just fine. So you almost can't go too short, but you can go too long. If you need to, based off of fatigue, take out what you want from the session, get the bare minimum of what you need out of that session, and then just be done, okay? Strength doesn't always have to look like a 2-hour session situation. It just doesn't. In fact, if you're going 2 hours in a strength session when you're training for an endurance endeavor, probably doing too much, or you're just going really slow through the stuff, which if that's the case, do whatever you want. Machines are your friend. Using machines, I think this is becoming more commonplace now, which I love, but machines used to be like super frowned upon in the any kind of really athletic space because it wasn't compound and you weren't training stability and it didn't feel like real strength training. But in reality, machines might even be more well utilized with really high level, high volume athletes because what's happening is you're accumulating so much fatigue during your training week that being able to back up off and have a machine that's going to still drive intent and drive stimulus without generating as much fatigue and also keeping this thing called external stability present. It's giving you something to rely on when form might not be 100% there because you're tired. Machines are great because they're just a great tool to help with overall stimulus management. Of course, I do still recommend have exercises in your training block that do challenge internal stability. So doing things like barbell lifts, doing dumbbell lifts, doing unilateral based exercises, Copenhagen planks, those are all great, right? Direct core work, all great. But you can also integrate machines into that. I use cables for cable crunches. I've seen people use Smith machines for single leg RDL variations. Unilateral leg press is a great variation. All of these things are still driving intent and still challenging a degree of internal stability while using a machine to help you manage overall fatigue. It also allows you to drive a high level of output, which is what strength is about, right? We want to be able to push heavy weight and work on getting strong without accumulating quite as much fatigue and also potentially hurting yourself. I think that the strength room is a pretty safe place to be in. But again, if you're really tired after a really hard run and you're deep in a training block and you're in your gym and you're like, man, the idea of doing a barbell front squat right now sounds horrible. I'm just really tired. My quads are kind of hurting. My adductors are a little bit sore. My low back feels fatigued. Dude, hop on a pendulum squat. It's all good. Hop on a Smith machine. Instead of doing potentially a trap bar deadlift, maybe a heavy leg press is going to be good for you. So use machines. They are your friend. They don't mean that you're not a real athlete. They don't mean that you're weak. I think machines are great tools for athletes. I have every single one of my athletes who works out in a gym who has access to machines, utilizing machines. So use them. This moves pretty seamlessly into my next point, which is RPE is also your best friend. So when you are deep in a training block, and this is again kind of considering being deep in a training block, because this is when most people have questions about load and stimulus management, you're probably going to get weaker. Like strength is going to go down. When I first started running, I was being able to manage 175 on barbell front squat. Now your girl is lucky if she can put 155 on the bar. My strength has objectively gone down. This is where RPE becomes your best friend. I still want to push hard in my sessions. I still want to drive overall output and I still want to get intent out of the movement. And if I'm doing a heavy compound lift at the beginning of my training session, then I'm probably going a little bit lower rep and I am trying to drive strength here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the RPE scale. I'm going to say I want to be able to get about 2 reps shy of failure, where the reps might slow down a little bit toward the end of the set. My form might be harder to maintain toward the end of the set, but overall my form is maintained, and I'm able to eke out probably a couple more reps if I really wanted to just grind a set out. But I'd stop 2 reps shy. The gun to your head approach, which is what a lot of people base the RPE scale off of, is like gun to your head, you could do 2 more reps, gun to your head, you could do 3 more reps, gun to your head, you could do 1 more rep, gun to your head, that kind of thing. Nobody that I know has had a gun to their head, so I don't really know exactly what I would do. Like if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably just shit myself. I probably wouldn't be able to do nothing. So gun to my head, I'm actually probably weaker if I'm being real. And so the RPE scale that I generally try to use for people is 3 reps shy of failure is you should be able to maintain overall technique, but technique might start breaking down in the next rep or two. 2 reps shy of failure is the bar speed or the dumbbell speed or whatever, your body movement speed might slow down a little bit as you go into the set, and form is a lot harder to maintain, but you're able to maintain it. You probably have about 2 reps left in you. 1 rep shy of failure is definitely speed of movement might be slowing down. Form might be starting to get a little bit compromised. Everything is burning and hurting and whatever. Maybe you could get 1 more. And 0 reps is there's technical and mechanical, which is on a machine. It's like I literally cannot lift this anymore. I've completely failed. On a compound lift, if I do another rep, I will probably drop it, or I will severely compromise form to the point of actually potentially injuring myself to do this rep. I'm going to stop. When you use the RPE scale, you're able to very effectively get through the session and push hard without worrying necessarily about your overall strength numbers. If we see a drastic decrease in strength in a hard training block, then again, that's something that you'll want to look at and monitor. But some strength decreases deep in a training block is totally normal. And that's why RPE is awesome for this kind of thing. And the last thing that I want to talk about is, what about on down weeks? What about when you're tapering? Well, these are things to definitely note. When you're on a down week, you can do it one of 2 ways. If you are really feeling fatigued, then I would say if you normally do 3 sessions a week, cut it to 1 or 2, potentially just take a week off from lifting if you've been pretty consistent with your lifts. I actually prefer to still lift on a down week because I find that I have a little bit more energy. I don't try to fully send it or anything on a down week, but because my runs are so much easier, my recoverability is way higher for my lifts, so I don't necessarily worry about going into the following week really fatigued. But I definitely don't approach my strength sessions like this is what I do now and I'm going to freaking send it, because the whole point of a down week is to recover and to rest. I like to lift. I think it's fun. It's enjoyable. I don't find that I generate or accumulate too much fatigue in my lifts. And I also know how to stimulus manage. So I utilize those principles in my down week. And I like to get all of my sessions in. But if that's not you, then go ahead, take the week off or do 1 less session or drop the volume substantially. So instead of doing all of your sets and all of your reps, cut the sets in half by about 50%, keep the reps the same. You can also cut the sets and the reps in half and still try to, keep the overall load the same. Some people cut everything where they reduce volume and intensity. So they drop the load by about 30 to 50% and they drop the volume by 30 to 50%. It's up to you. Ultimately, that is a call for you. And if you do hire a one-on-one coach, that's for your coach to know about you. What do you respond to better? Do you do better with a drop in volume? Do you do better with a drop in intensity? Or do you need both during a down week? When you're tapering is one that I take a little bit more seriously and kind of across the board apply to everybody. You should not really be lifting much during a taper. If you're doing a 3-week taper, which is a very long taper, I don't know many people who do 3-week tapers, then you could probably still lift on week 3 and a little bit on 2 weeks out. If you're doing a 2-week out taper, 2 weeks out, you probably could lift. I would really keep it very simple. Don't change anything. Don't try to go balls to the walls. Don't go hard at all. Definitely apply the principles of reducing overall volume and intensity, depending on what works best for you. Treat it kind of like a down week for lifting. And then for a week out, I almost recommend no lifting at all. If you want to go in there and go in the gym and move around and do some drills, hit a couple sets on leg extension, hit a couple sets on lying ham curl, keep it very simple, very easy. If you are a week out and you're somebody who has a lot of experience lifting, I've seen people get away with strength sessions a week out and being pretty fine. But also, hindsight's 2020. Would they have been better if they had just rested? Who knows? So ultimately, you do you. Figure out what works best for your body and you. I personally do like to lift and move a little bit on a week out, but everybody's different. So that is overall how I work on stimulus management to help train my clients. My last tip is really just hire a coach for help. This is why the price difference is so great between a one-time purchase program and actually working with a one-on-one coach online, because even in my own training block, and I have a lot of experience lifting, I have changed my training immensely. I've had to adjust and change things a lot on this training plan. And with clients that I work with who are training for races right now, sometimes things are changing on a week to week, sometimes day to day, sometimes hour to hour basis. And it's really important to have somebody who's unbiased looking at your programming and making sure that you are set up for success. And so, of course, not everyone has the means to hire a one-on-one coach, and that's why I'm giving you guys this right now. But let me know if you have any questions. I know it was a lot of information, and there's a lot of big words potentially being thrown around. So please do ask questions in the comments if things were unclear, or if you want sub episodes released about something to go a little bit more in depth. Ultimately, I'm here to help you guys, and that's what this episode's about. So subscribe, like, comment below if you have any questions. And if you are looking for a one-on-one online coach, I do offer that. If you are not somebody that can hire an online coach, but you really do want a good program, then I do have quizzes that you can take below to find a program that would be suitable for you based on your goals. It's a one-time purchase program, and it is designed for runners by a strength coach for runners. I was going to talk a little bit about some health updates for me and my training, but honestly, I don't think that I'm in like a really good headspace to do that, because I've been on the struggle bus with it. It's been hard for me to kind of wrap my mind around some of my health issues that I've been dealing with, and I'm still in the process of handling them. But let's just say this week I'm in a down week. Next week, I'm building into the last month, 4 weeks of a really hard training block before a 2-week taper and then race day. So I'm excited for the challenge that is coming. I'm a little bit nervous, and I am a little bit discouraged with some of the health stuff that I'm dealing with. But, overall, I do think that sub 130 is in the cards for me. So just got to keep working, keep recovering, and keep working. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Alchemical Life podcast, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.